Welcome back to Through the Waves. This episode will be dealing with fear conditioning and the loop that feeds itself. Now, by the time withdrawal reaches this depth, something else begins to form that is just as powerful as the physical symptoms. The brain starts learning fear at a structural level. Not fear as emotion, but fear as a prediction system. The nervous system is designed to remember danger. When symptoms strike repeatedly and without warning, the brain begins to map those events as threats. It doesn't care that the source is internal. It only registers intensity and repetition. This is where fear conditioning takes hold. A flare can happen after eating. A panic surge happens in a grocery store. A wave hits during a conversation. A symptom spike follows a sound, a smell, a movement. The brain links the environment to the surge, not logically, but neurologically. The amygdala, which detects threat, becomes hypersensitive. It starts scanning constantly, looking for patterns that might predict the next impact. Even neutral situations begin to carry anticipatory tension. The system isn't waiting for danger anymore, it's expecting it. It creates feedback loops. A memory of a past flare increases vigilance. Vigilance increases adrenaline. Adrenaline increases symptoms. Symptoms confirm the fear. The loop closes and reinforces itself. People often interpret this as a psychological weakness or a personal regression. In reality, it's associative learning under extreme stress. The brain is trying to protect the body using the only tools it has. The problem is that the threat that it's trying to avoid is coming from dysregulation, not the outside world. So the system ends up fighting shadows it cannot outrun. This is why setbacks feel catastrophic. Not just uncomfortable, catastrophic. A wave doesn't feel like a bad day. It feels like evidence that recovery has failed. The nervous system encodes each spike as proof of danger, strengthening the fear response and tightening the loop. This is also why reassurance rarely sticks. Words cannot override conditioning that has been written directly into survival circuits. The body reacts before language arrives. Over time, the threshold for activation lowers. Smaller triggers create larger responses. The brain becomes efficient at fear. It learns to launch full alarm states with minimal input. That efficiency is not intentional. It's an adaptation gone too far. There is also a cognitive component. The prefrontal cortex, responsible for perspective and regulation, is operating under chemical stress. Reduced inhibitory signaling and elevated stress hormones impair its ability to dampen emotional circuits. This makes catastrophic thinking feel automatic. Not because the person is choosing pessimism, but because the brain's braking system is underpowered. Emotional reasoning outruns logical processing. People often say, "I know this is withdrawal, but it doesn't feel like it." That sentence captures the split perfectly. Knowledge exists, but the conditioned response is louder. Avoidance starts here. Not out of preference, but as a survival reflex. The brain narrows the environment to reduce uncertainty. Fewer variables mean fewer chances for a surge. The world shrinks, not because the person wants it to, but because the nervous system demands predictability. This is behavioral containment. It keeps the system from collapsing, but it also reinforces the fear map. Each avoided space becomes labeled as dangerous. The territory of safety contracts. And yet, this process is reversible. Conditioning is learned, which means it can be unlearned. But unlearning does not happen through force or exposed therapy applied recklessly. The nervous system cannot be bullied into calm. It has to experience safety repeatedly and gradually. Small turbulent exposures, predictable environments, measured stimulation. Not to prove bravery, but to rewrite expectation. The brain updates through experience, not persuasion. Every moment where a feared situation occurs without catastrophe weakens the loop. slowly, imperceptibly at first, but consistently. This is where recovery becomes behavioral, as well as biological. The nervous system is recalibrating chemistry, but it is also recalibrating meaning. It is relearning what is survivable. Episode 4 sits at an intersection of physiology and learning. Symptoms alone do not define this stage. The interpretation of symptoms becomes part of the landscape. Fear conditioning is not a moral failure or a personality trait. It is the nervous system doing its job too aggressively. Understanding that changes how the fight is framed. You are not battling your mind. You are retraining a prediction system. A prediction system responds to repetition, patience, and scale, not speed.